Hello, everyone. We're live, so let me know if you have my audio so that I'm sure that everything is okay and I could get started with peace of mind. Harris can't make it today. Something came up. So I'm going to use this empty time because Harris is not here for his commentary to cover what's happening in Iran. I know there are things you might be getting less updates from Iran, but the protests in Iran are continuing. They're still happening, and there's a lot more updates than a lot of you realize, because initially what happened, we got a wave of media coverage, but now the media coverage is dying, in English at least, is dying down a bit, even though it's continuing, right? And this is like, I'll show you the latest victim. Here, let me show you my screen. All right, so this is the latest victim. Well, I mean, there are a lot more victims, but this is one of the victims that is capturing everyone's attention because of the innocence of the victim involved, right? I'm going to go through a lot of videos and tweets before I thank you, Soha, for confirming that the audio is good. Before I do the Patreon questions. So there are some Patreon questions today that I will answer, but I want to go through a lot of tweets and videos coming from the protests in Iran, if that's okay with everybody, okay? So this is the latest victim. She died. She was killed by the Islamic Republic of Iran, the regime. So the caption by Masih Ali-Najad says, Islamic Republic of Iran killed her in the protest over the murder of Mahsa Amini. So Mahsa Amini, you guys, I think, know, she was the first lady that died, and all these protests were about her. And ever since then, there are more women who are dying and other people who are protesting and being killed, right? So this is one of them, right? This one, her name is Nika Shakar. I'm going to read it in Persian. Shakrami, I think. Nika Shakrami. Okay, Shakrami. 17, vanished during the protest after a week. It's easier for me to read the Persian, actually. After a week, security forces delivered her dead body with her nose fully smashed and her skull broken from multiple blows. Also, when they delivered the body to the parents, they didn't show, they only were allowed to see her face. They didn't let the family see her body because the body was really severely, injured, and they didn't want the family to see that. But look, this is a video of her singing and dancing, just so that you can see the kind of person maybe she was before the Islamic Republic of Iran murdered her. She is a Lor, which is one of another minority groups in Iran. So they smashed her skull and her nose. Her nose was fully smashed and her skull was broken with multiple blows. Okay? So it's not just Mahsa Amini. There's a lot of, and she went in the protest with like anti-tear gas equipment. So she was very much intended to be part of the active part of the protest, not just going for the show. So she was going with like with riot gear and everything like that. So she was like a soldier, right? I want to show you more things. So even with all of what is happening and the people being shot, and a lot of people have been arrested. Actually, let me show you, before I show you this one, I want to show you this, okay? This is a father who just lost her daughter in the protests, right? So the caption says, heartbreaking. Iranian father who promised to live long enough to dance at his daughter's wedding ends up dancing at her funeral after she was killed by the Iranian morality police for not covering her hair, right? So this is the father. Wait, I need to mute this because this song is probably copyrighted. So this is a dance that you do in celebration, but he's doing it in her funeral because this is the dance that he was supposed to do at her wedding. And that's her body right there. Look at his face. Look at all these men just standing there. Okay. Even after with all of this, I don't understand this video because these are these girls. These are not even women. These are high school girls. These are high school girls that are protesting. And a senior. Okay, so the caption says, "Oh, I know this one." Golnaz. Okay, it says unveiled schoolgirls in Karaj pushed out a senior education ministry official from their school. Right. So they were protesting. These girls were protesting against the regime and all. So the Ministry of Education sends this dude to come and basically educate them or put them in their place. And look what the girls, again, these are not women, these are high school girls. Look what they do. Look what they do in response. Yeah. Throwing things at him. They all have their hijab off. They all have, so he's here to discipline them, and they're meeting him without their hijabs. They're throwing bottles at him. They're kicking him out of the school. Look at this. They're saying, "Be sharaf, be sharaf, be sharaf." Be sharaf means without honor. They kicked him out of the school. They kicked the guy from the Ministry of Education out. These girls, and I don't understand. Like they know what could happen to them. Like there's so many. I don't know. These people are too brave. So brave. Okay, here's another tweet. This one is from Masih Ali Najad. So the caption for this one says, this, I think she means these. These scenes is embodiment of women, life, liberty. So women, life, liberty is the motto of these protests currently. The first feminist revolution is led, I think, by these fearless young women and girls. They know very well that they can be killed, yet they march in the street, shout death to dictator, dance and burn their headscarves. Look at these. These are guys. Again, these are high school girls. The past few days, we have seen an influx of high school girls joining the protests, right? So it goes in waves, right? Like sometimes it's like the truck drivers, sometimes it's the teachers, sometimes it's young people in the street, sometimes it's the parents, sometimes it's university students, and now we're going through a wave of high school, specifically high school girls joining the protests, right? And again, these are the people who are abused. Sometimes, we've seen the reports of what could happen to them, and they know the reports, and yet they are doing this. They're coming out in masses. Look at this. They're shouting death to dictator. Look, they have their hijabs off and everything. By the way, the reason why it's a little bit pixely is because they pixelate the video right across where the faces are, just so that they can't be identified and then later arrested. No, so how everybody has to wear the hijab. It's not just schoolgirls that they have to wear the. Yeah, everybody. It's like every woman has to wear the hijab. It's against the law not to wear it. Okay, let's continue. Okay, we already watched this one. So more, more girls and women. Wait, what is it? What is this happening? Look at this. They're attacking this car. I don't know what happened with this car with them. Maybe somebody from them was like trying to educate them or tell them to cover up or something. But look at these girls attacking the car. Be shut up. Wow. They're saying be sharaf means without honor. They're saying death to dictator. Magna dictator means death to dictator. Yeah, Ibn Qayyim say, I understand these have been the largest protests in Iran since 2009. Also, the most diversified. And I think that is even more important, Ibn Qayyim. It's not just the fact that they're the biggest one since for a very long time. There's two more important things about them. One is the distance between the last protests has been shortening, right? So yes, they're growing. These protests are becoming bigger, but they're happening more often than before. It used to happen once every decade, then it ended up being once every a few years. Now we're at the point that it's happening once every couple of months, right? And also the diversity is very important because we're getting young, old, Fars, Turk, Kurd, Arab, Lor, Baluchi, and everything in Bakhtiyari and everyone else. We're getting man, woman. We're getting, most importantly, we're getting secular and religious. And I think that is the most important diversity. We're getting secularists, atheists, anti-Islamic protesters, and we're getting Muslim and even very religious Muslim protesters joining the protests against the regime. And that's what's very unique about these protests. Yeah, no Harris today. Harris said to tell you guys that there's something happened that he can't make it today, but he will join us next week. Somebody on his chat also mentioned that Harris, please cover Iran protests more. Girls are doing great. Iran. So this was before that we went live. Somebody asked as well. So I also thought that we should, before I answer the patron questions, I'm going to go through the protests with you guys. Okay, somebody is saying the father dancing might not be true. If it's not true, I will clarify with you guys next week. Okay, if it's not the case. But yeah, let's see. Sometimes a lot of you guys say something that's not true, and I check it's true. But if it's not true, I will come back and double check with you guys. I will check with that next week, but we'll see. Here, these are for sure real because these parts I've seen in these parts I've seen in confirmed in Iran International, BBC, and all of that. Look at that. These are girls. These girls are saying tube tongue fisher. Basically, it's a protest saying that the mullahs need to get the f out, get the hell out. So this is just another picture of more girls just like just going about their lives without hijab as if like it's not the law. Like again, like I don't know how to explain this to you guys. When I was in Tehran, more than a decade ago, if I saw something like this in the street, it would be shocking. Like this would be, what the hell? Like how could I be seeing this? Like am I like in Europe or something or not? Like this is bizarre. And this is really brave. Like she just like just randomly just riding a motorcycle without a hijab. So they're just showing a lot of bravery. This is another video at another school. So let's read the caption for this one. It says, "Woman, life, liberty." So that's what they're saying. They're saying Zen. They're saying the Kurdish version of it, right? So it says, the translation is "Woman, life, liberty." It says, "Schoolgirls chant in Kurdish, the city of Sanandaj, October 3rd, while waving their hijab in the air. The slogan and removing hijab are two symbols of Iran protests in Iran in 2022, triggered by the death of Mahsa Amini in custody of morality police." So, guys, it's important to also recognize that these protests, the main chant, which is "Women, Life, Liberty," the origin of this chant is not Persian. Okay, the Persian version is "Zan Zendagi Azadi." The Kurdish version is "Jin," I think "Jian Azadi." The Azadi is the same. The fact that the main slogan of this protest is Kurdish in origin is very significant, because it's been country like so. You have to. The Kurdish part of Iran is one of the main areas where the regime tries to fearmonger as a potential part of Iran that will secede for the rest of Iran if there is a revolution in Iran. So it tries to portray as if Iranians are divided across ethnic lines, and Iranians are very proud people about their borders, especially, right? They don't want Iran to be divided. So a lot of people have been convinced not to fight the regime because of their fear that the Kurdish part might secede if this regime ever falls, right? So the fact that this Kurdish originated chant is something that the entire country has picked up, is a sign to the other people that the country is united, that the people who are fear-mongering you about the potentially division that would happen if this regime ever falls, they're saying that this is a lie. Kurdistan is with the rest of Iran, and Iran is with Kurdistan. Okay, let's go to the next one. Oh my God. Okay, yeah, this is one of the best ones. So these are girls in their classroom taking their hijab off, and in every classroom, I mean, as long as I remember, we had pictures, and also in classrooms and offices, you're supposed to have a picture of Khomeini and Khamenei, right? So these brave girls, are taking the picture of Khomeini and Khamenei, and they're turning it over with the slogan of the protest behind it written "Zan Zendagi Azadi," mean woman, life, freedom behind it, right? Look at that. Yeah, it says "Zan Zendagi Azadi," woman, life, freedom, without the hijab. This is, I don't know, this is crazy. This is absolutely crazy. Let me close some windows. Yeah. Here's more schoolgirls showing more bravery than should be imaginable for girls this age. Look at this. Look at it. So they're saying Azadi, 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 which means freedom. Azadi means freedom. You guys have audio, right, of the videos that I'm showing, right? Okay. All right. So there's that. Oh, look. Look at these girls without their job. So some of them are doing the victory with that. Well, look at the. Okay, it should be a crime. It should be a crime to cover this hair. Look at this glorious hair. God damn. Why do people? Why are they covering? Okay, so some are doing the victory sign, but most of them are just showing the middle finger. I'm assuming to government officials. So let's do more. Yeah. Not this one. Okay, look at this. Look at these girls. Look at them. They're like. These are all high school girls coming out in protest. Oh, and you hear the cars honking in support. Oh, so they're chanting, I will kill whoever killed my sister, right? So, Mikosham, I will kill, Haran ke khaharam kush, whoever killed my sister. That's pretty badass. These girls are badass. All right. That's actually. Oh, look at them. Yeah, look at them. Again, they're saying tube tank feshveshe achun by gombeshe. Tube tank fesh means like they're like tanks and I don't know, gunpowder or whatever. No matter what you bring, the mullahs still need to go. All right. Look at this one. More. There's so many. We used to get like 5 years ago, we had like 3 or 4 pictures like this, okay, of girls taking off their hijab and posting it in school or class, right? And we used to show it everywhere. Like, look how this is impossible. This is amazing. How could this possibly come out of Iran, right? But now we're flooded with images and videos like this. Like now it's like everywhere. So the tides are changing. It's just really hard, like, to control this anymore, right? Like, I'm not saying the regime is going to fall because of these protests, right? Because they still, it's just, but we can see how things are changing in a way that can't go back. Like, things are changing in a way that is, you can't put it back together again. It's slipping through the regime's hand, right? And I just don't know how many more paradigm shifts like this can the regime take for it to completely lose control. I don't know what it's going to take. So the caption here says, this is the image on Voice of the New Iran, high school girls singing Shervin Hajipur. Guys, Shervin Hajipur's song, which after I show these tweets, let me know in the live chat. I'm going to go through the song with you because this song has become the anthem of these protests. The main song everybody is singing and playing. Shervin Hajipur made a song and he got arrested for it. Now he's released again. But it was so perfect that everybody is singing this everywhere. Outside of Iran, inside of Iran, everybody who's supporting the regime is singing the song. And it has gone viral on Twitter and Telegram and Instagram and social media, right? And that's what they're singing right now. The song is in Persian, but if you guys want, I will go through it line by line and translate and explain it to you guys. I know there's translations over there, but I want to explain it to you in context if you're interested in that, right? So that's what they're singing. So Shervin Hajipur song, Without Hijab, the song that has been written based on tweets for Mahsa Amini's protests, mentioning the reasons for the uprising and has become the anthem of Iran revolution, right? So basically what that song was on Twitter, something went viral where everybody was explaining why they were protesting, right? So they will start with for, and then they will say for what, right? And what Shervin Hajipur did is that he collected all of these tweets and he made a song out of them. Oh, Mike just made a super chat. So Mike is saying, did you get the brutal death and desecration of the body of Nika Shakarami, I think is how you say it. Shakarami. Yes, I did. That was the first thing I went through. Okay, that one, guys, that one has been verified. I just before the stream, that one I know is verified because I saw it on BBC and Iran International. So that one is completely verified, and also the accounts of her family and everything, and the way that the body was presented, and the family was also. According to BBC, the family of Nika was threatened, and they were requested to come on TV and say that Nika was not killed during the protest. Something else happened to her, and they said again, this is according to BBC. I don't know if this is wrong. Don't blame me for it. According to BBC, if they told the family that Nika's family members will also be killed if they don't come on national TV and say in an interview and claim to the nation that Nika died in a different way. Like they have to come and lie to the nation about Nika's death, or else their family could be next. So this is what we're dealing with. By the way, Mike, thank you for the super chat. Let me see. Ibn Qayyim saying, I think the most important thing is they need to sustain the protests and occupy the center of Tehran, like the Arab Spring protests. Yeah, I don't know if this protest will sustain or not. It seems to come in waves, but it just like it's not refuted. Like it has been sustaining itself for more than 2 weeks now. And that's incredible. So that's another thing that is unique about these protests, because previous protests like died after a week. These protests are also lasting the longest. But even if these protests die, I think we have crossed a lot of red lines that will be picked up from where it was left up in the next round of protests. Okay, Ibn Qayyim is also saying, yes, I have checked and this has been verified by BBC. Okay, good. So that one is real. Anyways, we know like the ones that Masih Alinejad posts are more likely to be true as well, because she does verify these things. She does have a team and she does verify things before we post them and everything. Okay, so let's look at this. Yeah, so that's the song. I can actually see the song was written on the board as well. and on the top it says Baraye Zan Zindagi Azadi and there's a hashtag here. That's pretty cool. All right, let's go to the next one. What does this one say? This one is by Messiah, just saying police entered to school in the school. Okay, enter a school, I think she means, to arrest teenagers. And she continues, Iran's regime is losing to its people across the country, and it's resorting to desperate measures to create fear through pathetic shows of aggression. This is only going to engage people, enrage people, and up their game against the regime. So these are, look at them. They're just walking around without a job. What the hell? This is amazing. And the police is, there's no way to control all of this. Remember, I told you guys in the previous streams, because Susanna asked me, like, can they, because the Islamic Republic was trying to come up with measures, because a lot of women were like wearing proper hijab. They were trying to install cameras. They were trying to say that women without proper hijab, without proper hijab shouldn't be served in restaurants, shouldn't be allowed to be entered into banks, shouldn't be able to use public transport, or shouldn't be able to use the train or stuff like that. And they wanted to use face recognition technology because they didn't have enough resources to enforce the laws. And that was just like, we were covering this news like 2 months ago, right? And I was telling Susie, like, there's no way to control all of this. It's just too much improper hijab now in Iraq, right? But now we've gone to the extent we don't have improper hijab. We have like no hijab. Like, and there's so many. Like, there's no way to undo all of this. It takes a lot, and they already are lacking enough resources to monitor and control all of this. All they have, that's why what they have to do, what they're trying to do, because they don't have enough manpower to monitor and arrest everybody, is to make examples of certain people. That was their strategy before. Like, okay, let's just take a couple of them and make their life living hell, so that the rest of them just are scared, right? But apparently that backfires, because instead of being scared, the people who see this, they get angry and they come out fiercer than before. So it's not that strategy is not working. So I don't know what is the plan. What's the next strategy that they're going to go by? Because look at this. She's like just walking in front of the police. Do you know how unimaginable this was 10 years ago? 10 years ago, 5 years, 2 years ago. Look at this. It's just like without the hijab in front of morality. This is Niro Intizami. Like, oh yeah, I'm just going to school without like no hijab. What you going to do? What you going to do? Jesus Christ. Yeah. Look at this. Yeah, we already saw this one. Okay, let's do more. Look at this. The same women who are waving their mandatory hijab on the pedestrian bridge have beaten, jailed, and humiliated by morality police for years, but now see how people are supporting them for taking off their hijab. So this is again a lot of girls on a just taking off their hijab like it's no one's business on top of a bridge. So you see people, the cars are honking in support of the girls. Like you can see the guys, there's no referendum in Iran, right? All we have to go by is what the videos that we're getting and the reports from the streets. The fact it's not just these girls. You could see the entire streets, like people are honking in support of the girls. Like it. I know this is not a scientific like report or anything. It just seems that the people, the vast majority, if are on their side. They're not on the side of the regime. Look. Oh, the person that is recording, he zoomed in and he says they're children, like they are girls. Like he's like they're not like he's saying as in a shocking way, like they're childs. They're not like women. Children. Look at this. One thing you can't change anymore is that the rebellious attitude that these girls have now, that's something also that you can't undo. Like these girls are going to grow to be women, and it's hard to imagine. This is the new generation, by the way, in Iran. The generation that the song Salam Farmande was claiming that the supreme leader was trying to claim from himself. This is the response. As much as our generation was against the regime, our generation did not have balls like this. Okay, this is something different. This is a lot more rebellious than we ever were when we were that age. So, and they will replace us at some point. Like and eventually they will grow old enough to take all the main jobs and everything. Like at some point, regimes hold on people will, it will slip right through their hands. Like it's impossible to hold up on maintain control over these people. Like if it is a way, I can't imagine how. Let me get this one. Okay, so another caption, it says the schoolgirls from Sanandaj say we were forced to wear the hijab from the age 7, but now we won't obey hijab laws anymore. Enough is enough. We are all Masih al-Najad and we chant women, life, liberty. So let's look at this one. So they're chanting Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. We are all together. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. We are all together. I like that they're saying the Kurdish version instead of the Persian version. Oh, look, they're taking. So here you can see they're taking off the Khomeini and Khamenei pictures in the class, and they're writing. They're replacing it with. Oh, this one has two parts to it. Okay, so this one says Zan Zindagi Azadi, which means woman, life, freedom, and then at the bottom it says Mad Mihan Abadi, which means man, nation, prosperity. So woman, life, freedom, man, nation, prosperity. Okay, so oh, this one is so good. This one. Okay, what is this? Look at this. Videoی دریافتی باشه اعتراض داشته باشه. Okay, so this is another high school girls, but look, this one is unique a little bit. Look at it. So what you see at the bottom here on the floor, what is paper, and you can see Khomeini and Khamenei pictures, right? What I'm assuming this is, and somebody, if I'm wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, is your school books, textbooks in school in Iran, they all, at the first couple of pages, they have a picture of Khomeini on them, right? And I think what they have done is that they tore it apart and they threw it as a sign of protest. So these are pictures of Khomeini. Yeah, they're all Khomeini. So for people who don't know, Khomeini is the leader of the revolution, the person that is responsible for the 1979 Islamic Revolution in Iran. Yeah, they're all Khomeini. I'm assuming they tore it out of their own books. So the first chant was Natarsid. Wait, what was the first chant? So the first chant is Natarsid Muhammad Bahamasim, which means don't be afraid, we're all together. This chant, it says death to dictator. Gunpowder, tank, whatever. The mullahs have to go. Basically, the mullahs have to go no matter what. The reason why this is pixely is so that they can't be identified and arrested later. All right, so there's that. Here's another one. Look at this badass. Okay, so this is good. Okay, so this is in Tehran. It says, we don't want the Islamic Republic. The woman of Iran on the garbage can shouts. Okay, here. So she's saying Jamhuriya Islami nemikham, means like Islamic Republic, we don't want. So I think this is what more girls have to do. They have to wear like their COVID masks and sunglasses. This is pretty smart. It makes the editor's job, the people who are like publishing these videos, it makes their job easier as well. Yeah. Here's another one. All right, so I just want to show you one last thing before I go to. Wait. Oh yeah, these two girls decided to just go without their hijab and just eat breakfast, and they were arrested shortly after, right? So they just had a sign of protest. They just had breakfast. They just went there and just wore normal clothes, something that's considered normal everywhere else in the world, and just wanted to show like their crime was that they had breakfast without hijab, right? This was right after the protest, and they were shortly arrested after. The crime of having breakfast without hijab, right? And then we have this one. So they're marking the houses of people who are chanting, I think, so that they could come arrest them later. So this says Tahta Nazar, which means under observation. So let me see what the caption says. Islamic Republic of Iran started marking the houses that nightly chant. Oh yeah, so a lot of people who don't want to come in the streets and chant, some of them like stay at home and chant, like open their windows and shout and chant like "Death to Dictator" or stuff like that. So what they do is because they don't have the resources to come arrest them, all of them, they just like mark their houses with Tahta Nazar. Mainly, the main chant coming out of the windows is "Woman, Life, Liberty," and "Death to Dictator." So yeah, that's what they're doing. Also, they're shooting a lot of the protesters with paintball because they don't have enough people to arrest them, but they want to mark their clothes that they were at the protest so they could go arrest them later. And sometimes they shoot them with real bullets. This is guys, this is like an act of protest. Just walking in the street without a hijab is now an act of protest in Iran. This female protester in Tehran went out without wearing a compulsory hijab. She's risking her life for freedom, but freedom isn't free. Will you support Iranians together? We're stronger. Yeah. All right. So what was the verdict in the live chat? Did you guys want me to go over the song with you guys? Let me see. John is saying, this is what happens when you cage people, they revolt. Luckily, our natural resistance against being caged will topple any dictator, but it takes time and a lot of guts. And a lot of blood, unfortunately. People are saying, sure. She's a very brave girl. Yeah. Well said. Yeah. All right. Okay, somebody's saying, okay, yes, please translate the song. Oh, Oxymoron is saying, holy shit, marking houses, this gives me genocide vibes. Yeah, it's kind of scary. Imagine coming out in the morning seeing your house is marked. Okay, Nelly, I will check that later. Anyways, let me translate. Let me go through the song again for people who don't know. Sherwin was arrested, and now after a lot of pressure, he was released shortly after for making the song. His crime was making the song, and again, he made the song by taking everyone's tweets when there was a viral trend going on Twitter among Iranians, saying on Twitter what were they protesting for. And they started baraye. Baraye in Persian means, the English translation is for. So it says baraye, and then they followed up by the reason they were protesting, right? So the name of the song is baraye, which translates to for. So he collected a lot of these tweets of people saying why they're protesting for, and he turned it into a song that has now been turned into the anthem of all the protests. Right? So let's go through it line by line to see what the song is about. Okay, so the tweet says برای آزادانه رقصیدن تو کوچه پس کوچه‌های کشور. So the tweet says, so for dancing freely in back alleys and streets of Iran, right? So Sherwin is saying, wait, hold on. For dancing in the streets, which is banned. So let me actually just read it off of the translation. I'll just read it off of the translation, and if I need any context, I will add to it, okay? So for fear you have when kissing one another, which is banned, also banned in Iran. You can't kiss publicly in the street. So for kissing. For my sister, for your sister, for our sisters. For the brains that have faded away, for the brains that have been brainwashed. For rotted brains. For rotted brains, I think it's relating to how the government and the regime has brainwashed and Islamize a lot of people's minds. Okay, so the song is a little bit from what Shervin is saying, right? So the tweet and what Shervin is saying is a little bit different. So the tweet here says, for the father that has disappointed his family, because for the father who feels shame from his family because he can't provide from them, and for his back that has been broken. So he's working so hard to provide for his family under a lot of trouble, but he can't still under the current economic situation in Iran, he can still provide for his family. So he feels shame looking at his family. And Shervin is singing for experiencing shame, for being destitute, for poverty, basically. For poverty. So the tweet says for a normal life, and Shervin is saying for the envy of having an ordinary life. Oh, okay. So for the child who plays, okay, so there are children in Iran who look into trash to find something that they could sell, right? They call them kudek zobalagar. It's for those kids, beggars in the streets, basically, begging children who look in the garbage for food or something that they could sell. For command economics, right? So for the current economic situation in Iran, which is caused by command economic policies, which is enforced by strict laws from top down. So for this, hold on. For this air that is polluted. So I don't know if you guys know, the bad policies of the regime has made Tehran's air very, very polluted. So much so that the sky is always, gray from the pollution. So it says for this polluted air. So for Valias is a very famous street in Iran, a very famous boulevard in Tehran. It says for Valias, and it was that street was built during the Shah's time, right? And it's depressed trees. I think this might be because somebody who can go back to Iran and misses Tehran and misses the trees of Valias Street. This is for Piruz and the chances of him going extinct. This was a cheetah, or leopard or cheetah. I think a leopard. So there was a leopard in Iran who had 3 babies, and this animal is endangered in Iran, right? And people are crying over Piruz. This guy has a famous story, right? I think there was 3 of them. Correct, Nelly? Am I right, Nelly? There was 3 of them, and even though this animal is going extinct and it's endangered in Iran, so the fact that the mother had 3 children was very precious, and very important, and 2 of them died under the mismanagement of the officials that were supposed to take care of him, right? And Piruz was the last one left, and people were comparing the mismanagement of what's happening. Like, they're comparing Piruz, which is the name of this little guy here, and his siblings. They're comparing to Iran, that is dying under the mismanagement of the regime. So this tweet is saying for Piruz and the chances of him going extinct. Oh, This one, it says for the dogs. Hold on. For innocent dogs that are banned. So in Iran, dogs are banned, right? And they gathered up in places like this and shot to death. There are videos of places where they gather them and the government officials shoot them in the head, right? And kill them all in masses, right? So, and this is one of those places that they gather them. So this is saying for illegal dogs, for dogs that are banned. Oh, it's a cheetah. Okay. Oh, you guys, I'm sorry. So yeah, in Islam, they're also the reason why they're banned is because it's un-Islamic. In Islam, dogs are considered najas, which means religiously unclean, and that's why you're not allowed to have them, and that's why they gather them and kill them. So the tweet says for the endless tweets, endless tears that we have every night, and Shervin is singing for endless tears or untimely tears, untimely tears or endless tears. I don't know which one is a better translation. Oh, this next one is kind of okay. This next one requires an explanation. So Shervin is singing for imagining this moment repeating itself. For basically what it means is for imagining, for wishing that I could have this moment back one more time. For being able to imagine it again, having this moment back, right? And the picture that is showing is posted by Hamed, which is the guy who organized the protests in Toronto and across the world that so many Iranians showed up. His daughter and wife were killed in the airplane that the regime shot down, the Ukrainian flight that the regime shot down, right? And with 2 missiles, right? Passenger plane. So many people, and ever since then, he's been on a battle to try to get justice for his family. So this is him with his daughter, and this is the daughter that died in that plane, right? So his tweet is saying, let's see the translation. Yeah, his tweet is saying for the heartache of wanting to of this moment that you put on the heart of a father. So, and Sherman is saying for wishing of repeating this scene, this image. Oh, this one is beautiful. Okay, so the tweet says, for the day that we all can put our real pictures on our profile pictures with smiling faces, like pictures of smiling, real pictures of our smiling faces on our profile pictures, right? Because they can't show who they really are on Twitter because they're in Iran and they could be, if they're known who they are, they could be arrested and or worse, right? And he's hoping for one day that they could all be free and just like not having to worry about hiding who they really are, right? So that's what the tweet says, and Shervin is singing for pictures of smiling faces. So for the students, for the future. Okay, this is short, but so much. This one is so short, but says so much. Okay, so it says for this mandatory heaven. So Shervin is singing for Baraya in Behesht Ejbari, for this mandatory heaven. I don't know how to explain that. So in Iran, people one people problem have with the regime is that why are you Islamic values, your Islamic values is yours, why are you forcing it upon us, right? And there's a famous line from a movie that one of these mullahs has said that we will take you to heaven even by force if we have to, right? So they have this ideology where this is the way people go to heaven, and a lot of Iranian people are not choosing that ideology, and they want to, apparently they want, and the Iranian people are like, keep your heaven to yourself. If you don't, we don't want to go there. If you think that's the way to go there, just do what you have to do. And they're saying like, no, we will drag you there kicking and screaming. And people are saying they see that the lifestyle that they have, the hell that they have to live through right now, is so that the regime wants to take them to this imaginary heaven, even if they don't believe in it, by force. So they call it a mandatory heaven. Let me see if this is the translation they have. Yeah, for this mandatory heaven. Yeah, people. So Nelly is, I think, Persian as well. So thank you for being here, Nelly, because I need help right now. Yeah, for effing mandatory heaven where we are forced to go there. From the like from the for the imprisoned intellectuals, right? Because a lot of intellectuals in Iran, the people who have free thinkers, people who are say things, a lot of educated people who fight for liberty, they go to prison. I remember even when I was I remember like this is more than a decade ago. This was like more than I think 20 years ago, I think even like 15 years at least. That even back then, when my mom drove the car and we would pass Evin prison. Evin is a very famous prison in Tehran. Every time we passed it, my mom would say, instead of saying Evin prison, she would say Evin University. Like, oh, we're passing Evin University. She would say it in the car because because they have arrested so many intellectuals that people dubbed it as like the Evin University, because there's more professors and educated people in there than universities, right? So this one, it says for the imprisoned intellectuals. For Afghani children. So Afghan children are treated very poorly in Iran. A lot of them don't have even documents that would entitle them to education or healthcare or even an identity. And they live, Afghani children. You know how minorities are treated very poorly in Iran? Afghani children are some of the worst treated minority groups of people in Iran. Like they don't get any. Very few of them get any form of protection or support. Like, you know how, for example, people complain about the situation where some Mexican immigrants or some other Latin Americans immigrants live in United States or some other places, or like maybe Africans in Europe. So imagine that, but 1,000 times worse about the Afghan refugees that come to Iran. Their lives are really hard. So this is for the Afghani children. Okay, this is so beautiful. I don't know how to translate this. This is برای این همه برای غیر تکراری, means for all these fours that are not repeated. None. Let me see how for the multitudes of fordes. So what he's saying is that like there's so many people are saying baraye, and they're not repetitive. Like people are not, a lot of them are not the same. That means for all these fordes that are not repetitive, that means there are so many things, so that there's so multitude of things that people are protesting for. Like when people ask why are Iranian people are protesting for, it's not one or two things. It's not 10 things. It's a million different things. So if you look at the tweets where people say, I'm protesting for this, for this, for this, for that, you will see that it's an endless list, and they're not repetitive. So that's what this is saying. It says for these non-repetitives for this. Oh, okay. So the tweet says برای تمامی شعارهای مرگ بر که به دانش آموزان رو مجبور کردم. Like, so okay, so when I was a student in Iran, we were forced to like chant death to America, death to Israel, death to, I don't know, this, that, death to so many things, right? And we didn't mean it. We just had to say it because it's just mandatory to say it, right? And the tweet says for all these chants of death to that the students were forced to chant, right? So, and Sherwin is saying for all these empty chants and slogans, basically. Yeah, or fake promises. So the tweet says, for all the, I don't know, pushali means like straw man, or like made out of straw, but how do you translate it to flimsy houses? I think it would be flimsy as a good translation. So yeah, pushali means made out of straw. So in Iran, a lot of houses are built with such low standards that they fall and kill a lot of people who live in it, right? So this person is saying, for all these flimsy houses that you built in the past 40 years that fell upon people's heads. And Sherwin is singing for the destructions of all these fabricated homes. I mean, hold on. Let me see. For the destruction of all these flimsy, weak houses. Collapsing, yeah, for the collapsing of all these houses. For feeling peace, for the feeling of peace. For the shining of the sun after a long night. So this one is purely symbolic. It's just like basically meaning that when the revolution comes, like basically all of these days are actually nights. Like Iranian people are living at a night, and daybreak will finally come when the regime falls. So this tweet is saying for sunshine after a very, very long night, a 40-year long night. For stress pills and sleepless nights. Basically, people are having so much stress and anxiety. Okay, so the tweet has both of them. So the protests have two chants. The one that started it was Zan Zindagi Azadi, which means woman, life, freedom. And now a lot of women came and completed the chant with Mad Mihan Abadi, which means man, nation, prosperity, right? So now Sherwin is only singing the second part because the main chant, which is the first part, he's leaving that for the very end of the song, right? So you can see that the tweet says I think this tweet was the tweet that started the second part that created the second part of the chat, because this tweet is introducing it. It's saying, and it got like 22,000 likes. So I'm assuming that this tweet was what created the second part of the chat. He's saying, in the same way that woman, life, freedom, we have man, nation, prosperity. And Sherwin is singing for man, nation, prosperity, right? And he's not singing the first part because that's the main part, and he's leaving it at the very end, especially because a lot of people just said for freedom, and he wants to leave the last part for the end, so when he says woman, life, freedom, then he could show how many people that a lot of people just said for freedom.
میهن آبادی برای دختری که آرزو داشت پسر بود.
So the tweet says,
میهن آبادی برای
for all the girls that in their life at least once wish that they were a boy, right? Because they see what the situation is and the way that they're controlled and told what to be, what to wear, how to behave, and what to be like in Iran, and they wish they were boys at least once. So that's what the tweet says. And Shervin is singing for the girl who wished that she was a boy.
دختری که آرزو داشت پسر بود برای زن زندگی آزادی.
So this is the end. This is close to the end of the song, and he's ending it with the main chant, which is Baraye Zan Zindagi Azadi, and then he follows it with a lot of other tweets that just say Baraye Azadi, which means for freedom. Apparently, that was the main chant. Okay, the main thing people were asking for, the most repetitive one, was for freedom. So let's just see. This is Baraye Zan Zindagi Azadi, and then he goes Baraye Azadi, and then continues Baraye Azadi, Baraye Azadi.
برای دختری که آرزو داشت پسر بود برای زن زندگی آزادی. برای آزادی. برای آزادی. برای آزادی.
Okay, so there's that. That took a while, but I think it was important. I hope like these give you some context, guys. Please go and look at the tweets with the hashtag Mahsa Amini on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, and maybe just share them. The more attention this gets internationally, the more pressure the regime feels. Right now, this is having a major international influence. Nothing has managed to disarm the regime internationally more than this ever since the revolution. Like, and they didn't see this coming. This has been a major blow to the power of the regime. And it's because of you guys who are sharing the story, right? Because of all the people, because of the international attention. If this story was only staying in Iran, it wouldn't have an impact. The regime needs this international soft power, and this has taken it away from them more than anything I can remember. So please just keep sharing the story, right? And I'm gonna, because Harris is not here, there are 4 patron questions. 3 of them are mostly directed to Harris, so I'm gonna save them for where Harris is back next week. But one of them is again, it's about the Iranian protests, so I'm gonna address that one. And then I'm gonna post a link for members of, if anybody wants to come. But I'm gonna show you what the Harris Sultan related questions is. I think this is Harris Sultan related, so I'm going to leave it for next week. This is also Harris Sultan related, so I'm going to leave it for next week. And Rob is also asking a question that is about Australia, ex-Muslim, so I think Harris Sultan would be the better to answer that. I'm going to answer the Iran related question. Says, I have noticed my anecdotal. Okay, so this is about the sanctions and whether or not we should be supporting the sanctions on Iran or not, right? So the question is, I have noticed in my experience, in my anecdotal experience, that my friends born and raised in Iran generally support the harsh sanctions and often want them to be even harsher. On the other hand, the people I know that are second generation oppose the sanctions as Western imperialism and see them as U.S. violence against Iran. And they tell me to listen to Iranians. What are your thoughts on this contention? Why do you think there is such a difference in opinions? Okay, so guys, the topic of sanctions on Iran is a very complicated one, right? Because there's no easy answer to this. It is true that the sanctions on Iran is hurting Iranian people as well. It's not just the regime. A lot of Iranian people are suffering because of the sanctions. Okay? It's also true that without the sanctions, the regime will have a lot more resources to oppress its own people and also commit a lot of acts of terror and fund terrorist groups around the region. Right? This is also true. My problem is that people for the sanctions and people for against the sanctions, they both dismiss the cost to their position as insignificant. Right? So the people who are for the sanctions, they're saying like, why would you take these sanctions away? You're releasing funds to a violent dictatorship that is the main sponsor of terror. If you remove the sanctions, you're releasing the funds to them. And when you tell them like, what about the Iranian people who are suffering financially for the sanctions? They say that the sanctions is mostly hurting the regime, not the people. That's not true. It's hurting the regime and the people. Okay, but they are right about the fact that if you don't have the sanction, the regime, this evil regime, will have more resources. They are correct. But I don't like it when they dismiss the cost, because the cost is high. Also, the people on the other side as well that are against the sanctions, they constantly measure how many Iranian people are suffering because of the sanctions, right? But they dismiss how important it is that the sanction is also handicapping a regime that is the main sponsor of terror. They downplay that part. So I think both sides are downplaying their part. I am personally for the sanctions, okay? Because there is no other way. I am for more targeted sanctions, but I know that's smart sanctions that finds a way and how to target the regime but not the people. But that is really difficult. Everything in Iran is so connected to the IRGC, which is the part of the regime that you want to target, that the entire economy is so connected to them that it's really hard to come up with a targeted smart sanction in a way that the people of Iran are not hurt. If there was a way to target the sanctions against the regime but not the people, obviously they would have gone for it by now. And they're trying to come up with better ways where they could target sanctions the regime but not the people. But it's not that easy. The reason why I am for sanctions, even with the cost, and again, I might be wrong, and I'm happy to be corrected on this. Okay? If I'm wrong, like, please correct me. I'm not married to this position. But there's only two other options. The other options are war and doing nothing. If there's any other option, let me know. If there's any other options beyond these three options, sanctions, war, doing nothing, against a regime that violates international norms and agreements and human rights and everything, and oppresses its own people. If you do nothing, that means the whole motto of never forget is nonsense, that the world stands by when cruelty happens to people. The punishing a regime, like it's like people who, I see so much hypocrisy from the left, people who support the sanctions on Russia but do not support the sanctions on Iran because of suffering of Iranian people. The sanctions on Russia is also hurting a lot of innocent Russians. Again, how could you support the sanctions on Russia knowing that innocent Russians are suffering because of the sanctions on Russia? But the cost of doing nothing is more. The norms and the standards that the international liberal order has come up with is the reason why we have some stability and some peace, more stability and peace than the world could have ever imagined ever since World War II. That needs to be protected. Violators of human rights should not be ignored. Their crimes should not just go unpunished. Doing nothing should not be an option. So if doing nothing is not an option, you have to choose between war and sanctions. War itself is not an option because that is also a violation of international norms that we're trying to protect. So that leaves us with nothing but sanctions. The sanctions, although many Iranian people are suffering from it, the sanctions have been forced upon them not by the international order that has accepted the sanctions, but by the regime itself. Do not blame the United States or the United Nations for their sanctions. Their hands were forced because war and doing nothing was out of question. The sanctions have been put upon the Iranian people by the regime itself. They are the ones responsible. That is my philosophy. That's how I argue. And if you disagree with that, let me know. In fact, if you disagree with that, you could come up live on air and tell me right now. I'm going to put a link on the community tab for our YouTube members on the Secular Jihadists channel. And I'm also going to send a link. Hold on. Let me see. I'm going to also read your comments in the meantime in case nobody shows up. I'm doing this because I promised people that I'm going to do this. So I have to. It's already been long, but I made a promise for YouTube members that they could come up. But this is only visible to our YouTube members. Again, this streaming on Secular Jihadists as well if you're watching this somewhere else. YouTube channel. All right. Let me just read some of your comments while we wait. Okay, let me actually send friendly Muslim the link as well. But today we're only talking about this Iran stuff. Send the link. I don't know if he's there today. All right. Let me read some of your comments. Allah is saying, problem is Western leaders aren't as honest as people think. I don't know what does it got to do with anything. Nobody assumes that all leaders are honest or not. We're just like analyzing everybody. What you assume they will do. People are not naive to think that the Western leaders are doing this out of their kindness of their heart. We know that being reelected or power or their own country's self-interest takes priority, right? But you could still try to figure out how to come up with solutions for the people of your own country in a way that it aligns with what they want. You're not relying on their sense of charity or kind-heartedness. You're actually, the way to play this game is to try to figure out how you can align your interests with their interests. Terrell is saying, I think somebody should make a version of the lion on the sun flag with a female lion. Yeah, that's actually, I was gonna say that people hate the idea of changing the flag in Iran, but a female lion, maybe that's a good idea actually. No, that's not a bad idea. Hey, that's actually pretty genius. I'm gonna actually think about that. Maybe we'll design it ourselves. Oh my god, that could be one of our arts. Okay, Sina is saying, how about getting weapons in people's hands? Okay, so here's the thing. The regime will only fall if, in my opinion, if one of three things happens. Oh, Idris is here. Okay, cool. I'll bring you up, Idris, after I answer this. I don't think people chanting in the protests, protesting in the streets is enough to topple this regime. It's not enough. Because no matter how many people come in the street, there's no reason for the regime to say there's nothing that will force the regime to stand down because the people are in the streets. The last time this happened in Iran is because the Shah just didn't want, he just gave up. He just didn't want to rule the people who are protesting against him like this. These people that are currently in power, they don't have the same attitude. They will fight tooth and nail to the very last child soldier that they could put in the streets to stay in power, right? So the only way for this regime to topple is for some element of force to be applied to them. So I'm not saying the protests don't have any influence. The protests have some influence, and I will tell you why the protests are important, right? So to be able to put some pressure on the regime, somebody needs to come in with some weapons. Like, you need armed forces. And there's three alternatives for who's going to be armed. It's either going to be a foreign force, like a military force from somewhere else, which is, I don't think it's going to happen. First of all, because there's no appetite for it, both internally and externally. I mean, internally, that's debatable. Some people are for it, some people are against it. Externally, there's no appetite for doing such a thing. Right now, the international order wants stability in the Middle East, not chaos, right? That's the first option, which I think is the least likely. The second option, which is somewhat likely but not very likely, is for the people to be armed. Okay? And for the people to be armed themselves, I think the most likely place that they could get armed is if they take over certain military buildings and stuff and just manage to get the weapons from those areas, right? Maybe originally they would manage to get it from different armed officers in the streets and then use it to go get it from somewhere else. That is the difficult to do and very unlikely, because even if few of them get armed, that is such a red flag that the regime will bring its army in, and the Iranian people, even if they're armed, they're not trained as much as the soldiers to be able to use them. So that might get crushed very fast before it gets to a place where more people are armed. And even if more people get armed and it would be impossible to disarm them, that would be so chaotic that the protests might turn into civil war, and I don't know how you're going to clean that up even after, right? But it's better. It's an option, right? The most likely and the most orderly option for armed forces to get involved, in my opinion, is for a military coup to happen, right? So again, we had the option of foreign force, people being armed, or the armed forces that we already have, a section of it, like the Artesh, taking the side of the people. And I want that to happen because it's the least bloody one. It's the least bloody one. It's the most peaceful one, and it's the most orderly one, and it's the easiest one to clean up after the regime falls. Because if the one with the people are armed, when so many people have guns in the street, it's hard to clean that up. It's hard to introduce order to that after so many people are armed after. But if the Artesh, which is the one arm of the one section of the armed forces in Iran, if that defects and joins the people, it's already armed. It's basically them taking their weapons and pointing it at each other. And the reason why I say the protests in the streets will make that more likely is because the more people come to the streets, the more legitimacy it will give to the Artesh for it to do such a coup d'etat. And it also divides them. I have been in a lot of rooms and groups where pro-regime people debate and have discussion. I've never seen them so divided in my life. Usually when I go to anti-regime rooms on Clubhouse, I see the anti-regime people are divided against each other, right? And the pro-regime people, they seem very united, and they understand the directive, they understand what they're supposed to say, what they're supposed to do, who they're supposed to be loyal to, and all of that, right? But now these protests, ever since Mahsa Amini has died, this has switched. I've seen the anti-regime people have put their differences aside, and they seem, for the first time after 40 years, there's some sense of unity among them. I don't know how long that will last, but I've never seen that before, and I'm seeing it now. And shockingly, I'm seeing division among the pro-regime people. A lot of them are skeptical now about their position, and a lot of them are criticizing the regime about the way they're handling this protest, and they're attacking each other so aggressively, especially because Khamenei didn't speak for 16 days, so they didn't have a directive about what to say and how to behave and what's right and what's wrong. That 16 days gave a lot of room for a lot of them to sow their own narratives, and their narratives were different from what Khamenei eventually came and said. So it was completely different. It was completely against what Khamenei eventually came and said. So they have made their allegiances visible and shown, and they seem to be more pro people. And it seems like such an even split. Like, it seems like hardliners themselves are very split on this. And if what I'm seeing on social media among hardliners, pro-regime hardliners, if that division is also happening in the higher ups, that's what you need. That's what you need, because the regime will only fall when the regime turns on itself, because that's the only force that could take down this regime. There's no foreign force that could take down this regime, and the people can't take down this regime by themselves either. The only thing that could take down this regime is the regime itself. So you need to turn it on itself. And by coming in the streets, and you're basically winning hearts and minds here. You're winning the hearts and minds of people that were against you. There are another thing that seems to be different this time is that a lot of the anti-protester forces are hesitant, and they're not following orders when they're told to shoot the people or hit the people. This hesitancy shows that there's defection and more division. And if this trend continues, that's what could take down the regime. People from the regime that have had enough. Anyways, we'll see what happens. Let me just block the spammer, and I'll bring Idris up. Wait. See, okay, one last question. Sina saying, wouldn't a military coup just leave us with a military dictatorship? Yes. But a military dictatorship, unlike a theological dictatorship, right? Unlike a theocracy, eventually, historically, has a higher chance to loosen up. I think it will still be a dictatorship, but a military dictatorship is less ideological than a theocracy. So it has more wiggle room. Historically, a military dictatorship goes through ups and downs because a military dictatorship wants wealth and prosperity, and it doesn't have all of the religious mandates and limitations for progress. So at first it will be extremely strict, but for the sake of economic prosperity, it will slowly loosen the strictness. First with the economy. In fact, when it comes to personal freedom, at first it might be even more strict, but it will start loosening it with the economy, and then eventually it will also go with the personal freedoms because of its own self-interest, because that's how you get wealth and prosperity. That's what I think. We'll see. Yes, exactly. A military dictatorship can lead to a civilian government. More likely than a theocracy. So we want to go from people who with them from mullahs to officers, basically. Anyways, let me bring up Idris. Hi.
Okay, hi. So I was thinking about what you were saying, and so I was wondering what's the recruitment process for the Artesh? Like, because I I feel like if the people of Iran like they don't like the regime, like won't most of the people in the Artesh be like more pro-regime? And can this like be a break to the change in regime?
Yeah. Okay. So yes. However, the Artesh predates the Islamic Republic of Iran.
Yes.
Right. So there are two main armed forces in Iran. One is the IRGC and one the Artesh. And it's true that the Artesh constantly claims that it's pro the regime. But a lot of Iranian people know that that's their main chance for success, right? And the Artesh, even though it's pro-regime, is less ideological. The IRGC is more. The Artesh has an ideology of for Iran. The IRGC has an ideology of for Islam, right? For the sake of it, for Islam.
Yeah.
And so it's protecting Iran is not even part of their directive in the IRGC. And they don't even recognize Iran's borders. That's why they want to defend Islam beyond Iran's borders or across the region, right? The Artesh's main directive, even now after the revolution, is to protect Iranians, right? And using that directive, a lot of Iranian people are trying to remind the Artesh what their mandate is, what they're supposed to do. And they're reminding them that you're supposed to protect Iranians. It doesn't say against who. It doesn't say that you're supposed to protect Iranian against foreign threat. It could also be against internal threat. And Iranian people are right now being attacked in the streets. And your job is to protect Iranian people. So if the IRGC or if the Nireh Intizami is attacking Iranian people, the Artesh needs to get involved. And even though they're currently pro-regime, that advertisement of remember who you're supposed to be loyal to, what you're supposed to be doing, is working on some of, like, there are videos of Arteshi people coming out and saying that we're standing with people, and they disappeared. The ones that said that, they disappeared. But it's hard to imagine that some higher officials do not think the same. The Artesh has never had, even for the past 40 years, they never got involved in attacking the people. Like throughout the protests, they never came in the scene to attack the people, to crush the protests, right? But the IRGC does have a history of doing that. So at least that record of them is clean. So the only thing you have for Artesh, for the people to hate them, is that some higher officials, every time a protest said, is that they came and they pledged allegiance to the regime. They said, no, we're for the regime. Like, we will always protect the regime and stuff, right? So that is bad. But they don't have a record of actually crushing protests. So that makes them, from that aspect, they're the cleanest institution that the people could have some. And the fact that it has a pre-Islamic Republic history means that it has a cleaner brand for people to forgive them. The IRGC is unforgivable, right? The Basij is unforgivable. Yes. The mullahs are unforgivable. The mullahs in the power are unforgivable. Khamenei is unforgivable, right? The Artesh is forgivable, even though they're currently saying they're loyal. So that's the hope. That's the hope of the people. And that's why every time a video of an Arteshi officer comes out that they're saying, like, we're going to take the side of the people, everybody is like so excited because they're like, oh, we need more of this. Remember, 5 years ago, we had only a few images and videos of girls in schools taking off their hijab, right? Now we have an ocean of that. So we're hoping that right now, today, I'm speaking with you and I'm like, oh, we have like 3 videos of Arteshi people saying that we stand with the people, okay? So 5 years from now, are we going to see an ocean, a sea of like videos and pictures of Arteshi people saying that they're going to defect and they're going to stand with the people? If that's what's like, we're hoping that this keeps growing, because that's what will take down the regime, especially when Khamenei dies. We don't know when he's going to die, but when he dies, are we going to be ready?
And how would you call the events in Iran right now? Because, like, I was talking to some Iranian people I met here, and I was like, I said, like, Iranian protest, and they said, don't call this protest, it's a revolution. But at the same time, yes, even though a lot has happened, like, at one point, do we say it's a revolution? Like, if there has been no armed uprising or no power has been grabbed, like.
Well, yeah, you're right. So it might be too early. So we're hoping basically that it's the beginning of a revolution. Yeah. So, I mean, they wanted to be a revolution, and part of making it a revolution is branding it as a revolution.
Yeah.
So you're saying we don't know if it's a revolution. Yeah, but it's more likely to become a revolution if you
If you
call
say
it a
this.
revolution.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And well, maybe others want to speak, but like, if this succeeds, how do you think the geopolitical strategy of Iran is going to change in the region?
I
Like,
have
because
no.
right now it seems so driven by the fact that it's a Shia regime. Like, if Shia Islam takes a less important place, like especially with like, the countries that got closer to Israel face the Iran threat, like it could change so much in the region. It's
Yeah. I think it would introduce. I think if. Okay, so I don't know what's going to happen. Okay. But if a stable secular democracy takes place in Iran, okay, I think it will create stability in the entire region. I think. Yeah. Because if you think about it, I can't think of any instability in the region that the Islamic Republic is not. I mean, can you? Maybe except the no, even the Palestinians.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah. You can
I
say
can't
Saudi
imagine.
Arabia. Saudi
Saudi
Arabia is reaction to Iran. So I guess
Yeah, Saudi Arabia's attack in Yemen is reaction to Iran. Everything
like
that I can
making
imagine. Maybe okay, yeah, actually, okay, here. Maybe Azerbaijan and Armenia will still be at
France,
each other's throat.
maybe in the
No, no.
ancient colonial powers. Like,
Okay,
at least
beyond
it
us.
used to be.
Yeah.
It used to have an impact, like France in the United Kingdom, Suez Canal crisis and everything. But maybe now it doesn't really matter anymore.
Which one?
The the ancient colonial powers like France and Great Britain,
No, and I'm talking about
like,
now. Right now,
yeah,
any disability you're seeing in the region, it's Iran backed, except the conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan. That will remain. I can't. I don't know. Afghanistan will probably have some conflicts between. I don't know. Yeah, but most of this instability, like instability in Iraq, the instability in Syria will continue. Actually, Lebanon will become a lot more stable. Yemen will be a lot more stable. Okay, so I can think of some conflicts that will continue, but a lot of it will go away. A lot of it will go away.
Turkey maybe with the Kurdish people, like they in Syria, Turkey meddled a bit, I think, right?
Turkey will still have a problem with the Kurdish. Actually, yeah, Turkey will still have a problem with the Kurdish people in Syria, and that's why Turkey will still be involved in Syria. But again, this is all if
Yeah, yeah. If
we
it
have a
succeeds,
stable secular democracy. Because if we don't have a stable secular democracy, it could even increase the tensions in the region. Let's see what these two have to say. Friendly Muslim and Ibn Qaim. Qaim or Qiyam?
Peace and respect. Yeah, no, the story seems to be ongoing, and do you feel it's dying down? Do you feel it's going to get more momentum, or do you think that there'll be a phase of media exposure and it just will flatten out now, and then it'll be up to
Depends.
individuals to keep on getting that information out?
Depends on what you mean by flatten down, because it keeps flattening down and then going back up again, right? Like for example, if this flattens down and then we have another protest in a few months, would you consider this as part of the same continuous protest or a whole new protest? Because the distance between the protests are shortening, it keeps going up and down. Like we have a few days of peace and then we go new protests again, right? So these protests might die down for like a couple of months and then pick up back up again. It just seems like the culture of rebellion and protest and revolution, that doesn't seem to be wanting to go away, even if they're temporarily stopped.
Are there more plans for protests like every weekend worldwide, like we had this past weekend?
The worldwide, no, there's no. I don't think there's plans worldwide, but there are. A lot of these things happen organically because of a person's death, or a new victim, or a new thing that the regime did. or a new person that stood up, or a new statement that someone. It just seems to be a lot. It doesn't seem to be planned. This revolution is leaderless. Where did Naban Khan go? This revolution seems to be leaderless. So, and without plan, and actually that makes it more difficult to clamp down on. You know what I mean? Because if it was planned, and if it had a leader, you could just attack the leader, or you could prepare for the plan. But because it just happens out of nowhere without any preparation, the regime has a difficult time trying to shut it down. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, because it seems organically sprouting in different places. And these protests sort of in different cities around the world are highlighting, because I think on Sunday or on the weekend it was in Trafalgar Square. I mean, multiple locations. I think it was possibly 122 locations. I could be wrong, but there are multiple protests. I'm wondering whether it's the case that it's going to be every weekend, and they're going to keep on putting the pressure up. And do you see these protests having an impact on actual governmental decisions, or in regards to?
Yeah, because a lot of their own people are turning on them. That's the main thing, because it's basically changing. What it's impacting is their supporters. Their supporters, and also it also seems like they are running out of resources to shut things down. Like, even though they find some people to make an example out of, they don't seem to be able to do. Like, we see so many girls and women without hijab in front of police, just walking as if nothing is happening. I want to show you. Yeah, go ahead. I want to show you something that I think you might appreciate.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, because to show it's not just wrong screen. It's not just the anti-religious people like me who are protesting, right?
بعضی است که مسئله مختلف.
But look.
چندین سال پیش شدیم پیوستیم.
So this is like a Chadori woman. Chador is like a very something that only religious women wear in Iran, right? So if you see somebody with a chador, not like a rusari is something that maybe more liberal people wear, right? Hold on, let me bring these two up. But a chador is something that more religious people wear. So you can tell that this woman is more traditional, more religious, right? Okay, so she's saying when my muhajjab mother, which means my hijabi mother who is religious, we're uniting together because we want to have a united voice for the campaign White Wednesdays, right? So this was like from a while ago. Like, you can see that she's supporting the women who are taking off their hijabs. So she's this little old lady. She's with her chador. She's supported with her full religious chador, is supporting the women who are taking off their hijab. So this is another woman with hijab. So like, even during the Shah's time, this was my hijab. Everybody should be able to wear whatever they want. Oh, look at these two. Okay, so this girl is so badass. This was a while ago. This was back when it wasn't normal to take off your hijab, right? She has her hijab fully off, but not next to a Chadori woman. So that means a Chadori means like very religious, right? So they're friends. They're like, look, me and my friend, I have no hijab and she's Chadori. Like, this is me and my friend with two different types of clothing. Oh, this is another one. Chadori, no hijab, walking in the streets. Like, look, this is my Khaharzadeh, I don't know, like my niece or something, my cousin. She believes in hijab and I don't. And they're friends. Oh, wait. What? everybody to their own religion. Moses, like something, Jesus to his religion and Moses to his religion. Means basically everybody should be able to pick and choose. Anyways, just wanted to show you that.
Armin, I've got a quick
Yes.
question. Can you hear me clearly? I'm not echoing or anything, am I?
You're good. You're good.
Good. Okay. I just wanted to ask, what is the likelihood of the Iranian regime falling following the protest? Do you have any idea of what the likelihood would be?
When?
In Iran, the central government.
When?
Yeah.
Depends on what you mean. When? Like?
Oh, sorry. When?
Within the next month or within 5 years?
No, within, say, the next couple of months.
Low.
Right. Okay. But you believe,
but not impossible.
Right.
Not impossible though. Okay, like it could happen tomorrow. Okay, it could fall tomorrow. It's more likely than ever before. Okay, so it's still low in my opinion, but more likely than ever before. Okay, if you give me a bigger time frame, that is becomes a lot more likely. Okay, so if you say 5 years, a lot more likely. Like this is what's happening is irreversible. It's irreversible. Something has changed significantly. Go on.
So I was just wondering, do you know, I was thinking if it was sustained, right, if they like kept coming out day in, day out, it would get to a stage where the Iranian regime would have to change tactics. They'd have to do something different because it becomes embarrassing then, you know? What do you think? What do you think of that?
Yeah, the tactic could be that they come and just massacre the people, right? But that's a major gamble.
That's a big risk.
That's a big risk because if they do that now, because they're noticing how many people who support them are leaving them, that could ignite a massive exodus by higher official. Okay, and I don't know why Khamenei didn't speak for 16 days. Okay, because so many people thought he's dead. Usually when the protest happens, he comes out and speaks 2 or 3 days. But the fact that this time he took him 16 days to come, so many people thought he was dead. So a lot of people showed their true colors. A lot of higher officials that they were like adjusting everything in case the regime falls. Right? And maybe that's why he didn't come out, because they wanted to see who their friends are. Right? But even some government officials were like, a lot of people are like trying to get their money out. Some people are like putting their family in the safe houses, some higher officials, right? So we don't have all the information, right? But if high officials are putting their families in safe houses, I know they have better information. And if they're thinking that something is going to happen that requires them to put their family in safe houses, that means they have seen something. And what have they seen? Have they seen like a lot of their own turning on them? Have they seen rumors of higher officials like signaling that they might not stand with Khamenei? And again, Khamenei, what if he dies actually? Because the man is old, right? Everybody, this is a silent, open secret that nobody's talking about. Nobody knows whether people are going to be loyal to the next supreme leader, because the sacredness is not there. Because the next supreme leader is either going to be Mujtaba Khamenei or Raisi, which is the current president, Mujtaba Khamenei, which is Khamenei's son, or maybe Alam al-Huda, or Ali Khomeini, which is the grandchild of Khomeini. Okay, very unlikely. Okay, these three, but none of these people have the sacred position that Khamenei has in the hearts and minds of a lot of pro-regime people. So his death eventually might cause the division that everybody was waiting for it to open the doors to a coup.
I completely agree with you on that. I think it has to be some of the top officials that need to start kind of standing down or go against the current regime. I think that was the case with the Arab Spring as well. We saw people, for example, in Egypt, it was some of the military commanders, they decided to, I know that's messed up now, in Egypt, but initially started off with people protesting and then sustaining the protest.
It's not really messed up. If you look at even if you look at Egypt right now, okay, it is messed up, okay, but there are more freedoms right now in Egypt than there were before. Originally, when Sisi came to power, it was really bad, really bad, worse than Mubarak ever was, right? But isn't it slowly changing? People are telling me that you can get away with saying things again in Egypt.
Is it? To be honest, I haven't been following the news, but I think the main difference between the two, between the Iranian regime and the Egyptian, is that the ideological principles of the Iranian regime are much stronger than what happened with
but
Mubarak.
it wouldn't be there. It wouldn't be the ideological principles wouldn't be there anymore if we turn into a military dictatorship rather than a theocracy.
I agree. I agree. Yeah, I agree. I agree completely. But I'm hoping, honestly, I'm hoping this could be, because if Iran becomes a democracy, honestly, it could have a ripple effect throughout that region, and you'll see maybe Iraq. There'll be no reason to keep in the people that are currently the pro-Iranian militias. They'll just disband, because they won't have any ideological
Lebanon as
reason.
well. Imagine Hezbollah in Lebanon without the funding of Iran. And imagine all the political parties that are staying in power in Iraq only because the Iranian government is funding them. The Iraqi people have been robbed off of the government that they have chosen because of the armed forces that are funded in Iraq by Iranian government.
Completely agree with that. Yeah. And one thing I love about Iran is that this is coming from the people, from everyone, and it's not like a top-down thing. It's everyone just gathering up who wants secularism, who are fighting for it. I wish we had this kind of mentality in Pakistan. Honestly, like it inspires me. The thing is, in Pakistan, if Imran, do you know, if you look at the big secularist movements, in the Muslim world, you see Turkey and you see Iran, and the two main reasons why is because they had people in power who were looked up to. So with the Shah in Iran and with Ataturk in Turkey, who were looked up to and who established secularism in that society, and then it's come from one generation to the next because of that kind of leader. He's kind of, whereas in Pakistan it could have been Imran Khan. He could have done that. He had the ability to do that, and he went the other way. And it's just so disappointing that he didn't support secularism, because if he did, he could have had that same ideological impact in Pakistan as the Shah and Ataturk had in their respective countries.
Yeah, that would be. You're right. Pakistan is going the opposite way, unfortunately.
And the sad thing is, the people there. Honestly, I go to Pakistan quite often, and the people there are just so friendly. Like, if you walk down the street, the people who have nothing, they'll give you, like street vendors who have absolutely nothing, living on, $1 a day. They give you free food. Like, if you're a tourist, if you're visiting the country, they'll give you free food. They'll invite you to their homes. It's incredible, and it's just sad to see that these people are the ones they're the ones that suffer the most as a result of the Islamism, which has been pushed in Pakistan, and it's just so sad to see. Because I honestly, like, I've lived in the UK all my life, but the people there, they're just, I don't know if it's Islam that creates that kind of mentality. Maybe, I don't know. But just the kind of welcoming culture there, like to foreigners and to guests, is unbelievable. And when you see the lynching, you think, how can the same people that are so nice and so friendly?
It's not the same people. Pakistan has many people. Yeah, Pakistan have many people. Like, the people who are doing the lynching are not those friendly people that you're seeing.
But do you know, like, even in the UK, like amongst the Pakistani community here, like, there seems to be a deference to religion, which I don't understand. Like, this kind of respect about religion. Like, in every interaction, you like salam, you're like, oh, inshallah, this and that. But you're seeing it less and less with certain people, but more and more with people who are more religious. I don't know. You see, what you're seeing in the UK is a kind of, you're seeing people who are becoming completely secular on one side, and then you have people on the other side who are becoming increasingly religious, and there's a gap in the middle where you don't, like, a friendly Muslim probably is in the middle of these group. You're not that kind of group is kind of dwindling, and I see kind of in Iran, it just seems to be, everyone seems to be like anti-regime from what I can see. I can't see. I don't see any pro-regime protests. I haven't seen anything that's pro-regime. There
was a pro-regime protest that was organized by the government itself, there was 2 attempts at that. The first one was so embarrassingly low turnout that they had to do another one to make up for it. But usually the pro-regime protests are kind of fake, because government employees, they have to show up at these protests, right? Like, they're going to notice if you don't show up. And so they just fluff the numbers like that, right? There's a calling for a protest, and the government itself like provides the resources. They bring the bus, like the anti-regime protest is like organic, right? But the pro-regime protest, the government provides buses, goes, picks people up, organizes, brings their food, and also there's an understanding that it will be noticed if you don't show up as an employee. Like the office will know that where were you? Like, what the hell, right?
Cool. Just one more question. If the Iranian regime collapses, right? Would within the next 5 years, would you go to Iran and start a party? And
I used to say no, because I always said that even if the regime falls, there's enough religious fanatics in Iran, and I burned the Quran, right? I burned Qurans on camera, right? And I thought, like, even with a secular democracy, I don't think they would have the resources to be able to provide protection for me enough to be able to go there, right? But honestly, like, if there is a secular democracy and stability, I would be too tempted to go. I would probably just go think to myself that if I go there unannounced, and then just nobody's going to be able to find out I'm there, I could just go to my childhood. I would be able to go to my home and school and take pictures there, and then when I leave, I could be like, psych, I was there. Like, I was thinking about doing that with India as well. Like, I wanted to go to India. Like, who could, like, they're not going to announce in the airport. Like, I could go to, no, they have FIRs against me. Am I, like, in the system or something? Would I get arrested?
Yeah, don't go there, man. It'll be in the system. Do you know what, as soon as you land, because it's hard to get a visa for India. It's a complicated process. It's not straightforward.
As a Canadian, I have a Canadian passport. I should be able to just go there.
Even in the UK, it's very difficult to get an Indian visa, because I think they're worried about, letting in people who might be like Pakistanis, that might be enemies of the state, etc. But you're an enemy of the state anyway there, to be honest.
Yeah, you're right.
But if they do collapse, man, you've got to go back, man. If the Iranian regime collapses, honestly, we need a party that's a secular democratic party. I know there's plenty of Iranians that would do that anyway, but I think, someone like you who has, who's lived in the West, etc. I think, and who understands uniting people, of different ethnic backgrounds and whatnot. I think you'd make a very, an important candidate that people could get behind. But
the problem, well, I mean, if I go there, I wouldn't announce it. I would be stabbed by some people probably. I burned the Quran. I don't want to. Okay. I wouldn't. I don't know if I will go there secretly. I would probably grow a beard, cut my hair short, go there for a week, and then come back. Right?
By the way, friendly Muslim. I just want to say, now that we're speaking like face to face, I want to apologize the way I spoke to you last time. It was. I know I've emailed you regarding this, but I just want to apologize. It wasn't the right tone, to have that conversation. So.
No, you're all right, man. I've left it back when you emailed them. That was weeks ago. But no, I appreciate it.
Because I think the work you do here is really important. Because you're trying to build bridges, etc. And I think that's really important. Because before you, there was no real Muslims who were coming on here trying to build bridges, etc. with the ex-Muslim community, and you've really been the first one to do that. So I think that should be. We should thank you for that. To be honest.
Yeah, no. I mean, we've actually, encouraging conversations with ex-Muslims now, so that they are, I've had to have conversations with people in the chat and say, listen, if an ex-Muslim comes, let's engage in good conversation. Let's try to really make sure it's a safe space that people can.
But by the way, the other day, I went to my cousin's house. They had their second child. And they were telling me how one of my other cousins had been going around telling everyone that he'd left Islam. And I was like, this was news to me. And Yeah. It was. You don't even know, like people were leaving Islam left, right, and center. It's
I
incredible.
like how they don't. I like how they don't just leave Islam. They just they leave Islam and they go left and right and announce it to people. That actually makes it even extra juicy. That's so good.
Yeah, I mean, because he's been saying it at work, and because there's he works for the Royal Mail, which is the main parcel delivery thing in the country, and he's a manager there, and a lot of the staff there are Muslims as well, and just the word got passed around, and then it's come back to my cousin, and we found out this way, and I was like, I was asking them what did they think. They said, oh, because my cousins, they're fairly secular, right? They're not religious. They were saying, oh, it's kind of bad that he's going around telling people just go quietly. That's what it's like. It's the same line, Armin, isn't it? Go quietly.
I don't understand, like Muslims that say, like, oh, okay, fine, you left Islam. Why are you announcing it? Like they don't say if somebody joins Islam and announce it, like, oh, mashallah, alhamdulillah, you become Muslim and everything, right? If we came like, okay, fine, you join Islam, why do you have to announce it? They were like, what are you talking about? This is something to be celebrated. So how come it's okay to tell everybody and celebrate the fact that somebody joined Islam, but all of a sudden when somebody leaves Islam, you're like, oh, okay, fine, leave it. Why you have to announce it to people? Like, this is not
So
an
true.
airport. Yeah,
It's so true. It's so true, man. And I think to an extent, it's to an extent within the family, it seems to be part of like shame culture. Like when I left Islam, my parents, like, they didn't care about the fact that I left Islam, even though they like come from like a small village in Pakistan. They cared about the shame that it would have, that people hearing about it, within the community. That's what they thought. And like they still they wanted me to get married to a Pakistani Muslim woman, even though I was an atheist, which is, I don't think that's Islamically permissible in any case. But they still wanted me to do that, crazy as it seems. But yeah, I mean, do you know,
saving face. It's not about religion, it's about saving face.
I agree. And do you know, when my grandfather came to the UK in the 1950s, right? Do you know? And this goes to show how Pakistan has changed. He had never read the Quran. He had never prayed, and the first time he prayed and read the Quran was in his 50s, when he was in his 50s. Before then, he had never in Pakistan. He only learned how to pray in the UK, not in Pakistan, because in Pakistan, in the small villages, they didn't have mosques because they didn't have the money to build them. The people couldn't read and write in Arabic because there was no Arabic teachers. People couldn't fund Arabic teachers in the small villages. But now, as the population has become more educated and the literacy rates increased, you see more and more religious people in Pakistan compared to
most Muslims have never read the Quran, right? The vast majority of them have never read the Quran. Even the ones who recite the Quran haven't actually read the Quran. They recite it without actually knowing what they're reading, right? Which is also very interesting because ex-Muslims, when they leave Islam, they're constantly told that, oh, how could you leave Islam? You don't even understand Islam. You're not an expert, blah, blah, blah. But they don't have the same standard for the people who are Muslims. So like, okay, why is your standard for leaving Islam that I'm supposed to like know it inside and out and have a PhD or like read multiple books and degrees and whatever? But for joining Islam, as long as like Ashhadu anna la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, no extra knowledge needed. That's it. You're Muslim. Welcome, brother. It's just, again, double standard and hypocrisy.
It's so true, Armin. You 100%. I completely agree with you. Just one second. If the Iranian regime falls, right, within the next few years, which country do you think is going to be next after Iran? Because I mean, Iraq. They don't have like a clerical. I mean, they have Muqtada al-Sadr, but he seems to want to keep religion out of politics. He's one of those kind of Shia. I mean, what do you think? What do you think will happen within the region?
I mean, Iraq isn't next. Iraq isn't even next. Iraq is currently in the midst of like a multi-year long revolution as we're speaking. You know what I mean? It's not even next. It's already happening. Like there's no like what country? Iraq it doesn't even have a government to topple right now. There's no official government. So they're already going through a very exhausting and, disastrous revolution. Wouldn't you say?
No, I agree. I mean, again, there could be many deaths as a result of what's going on, because the militias are well armed. Even though the vast majority of Iraqis are against the militias in the country, because the militias are the ones that are causing the instability within the country. They're the ones that, like, literally, I heard a story of so there'll be, for example, a militia guy would be injured, and he'll be taken to the doctors. The doctors would try and treat him, and the guy passed away, and then the doctor would be killed because he didn't save the militia guy. Honestly, I've heard stories of this happening.
What?
This
Okay,
is
I don't know for
seriously. I've heard stories of this happening, and
I don't know. Like, we have to verify these things.
we have to verify. But these militias, some of them are they're out of control. They're just like the thugs of the area. They get armed with weaponry, and I mean, it's just it needs to end. I mean, there's quite a few Iraqis in the UK, and almost all of them say that the Iranian influence in Iraq it's destroying the country, man. It really is. Like, if you say, there's a channel on YouTube where a guy goes to different countries and say, what is your favorite country, and what is the country you hate the most? And most Iraqis, it wasn't Israel or USA that they said that they hate the most. It was Iran, and it's simply because. And he would ask them why, and he said, most people say the Iranian people are fine, they're good people, but it's the influence of what they're doing in Iraq is destroying our country, and
same thing in Lebanon.
Yeah, completely. Hezbollah needs to come to an end. I mean, the Shia community there, it's the poorest community in Lebanon. Yeah, and it serves them with no favors, with Hezbollah there. I mean, it really doesn't. I mean, and hopefully that'll come to an end as well. I mean, Syria, they kicked Syria out of Lebanon, but Hezbollah has remained. And by the way, Armin, do you know the first female Sui bomber type person, right? Do you know?
Oh.
Do you know who it was?
Who?
It was 1987. Right, and it was a Christian, believe it or not. It was
Christian with Hezbollah?
No, a Lebanese Christian. She was part of. She was a Syrian irredentist, so she believed in a greater Syria. So she believed Syria should encompass Lebanon and Israel and all of its historic lands. And she blew herself up. It was an Israeli convoy, which was in Lebanon at the time.
Was she part of Hezbollah?
No, she wasn't part of Hezbollah. She was part of the Syrian Democratic Forces, which is a far left Syrian ethno-nationalist organization.
Hezbollah has Christian members.
It does, yeah. I've seen like non-hijabis in Lebanon carrying pro-Hezbollah placards, and I was like, what the hell's going on here?
All right, let's friendly Muslim also say a couple of words, and then also Oxymoron. Friendly Muslim, do you have any comments or opinions?
No. I'm good at the moment.
You're good? Okay, Oxymoron.
Okay, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Is my voice good?
Yeah, good enough.
So I wanted to ask, so a lot of people in Iran used to admire Turkey. Like a decade ago, before Erdogan came in and he made dictator. Yes. Yeah, so do they still admire Turkey right now?
Much less than before. I mean, they still think it's much better than Islamic. Okay, they only acknowledge that it's better than Iran.
Yeah, but at some point of time, they were fancying Turkey way too much.
Yeah, no. Because of Erdogan's Islamic speech and the way of thinking, and also they don't admire it the same way that they used to, but they still acknowledge that it's so much better than Iran. I mean, that's my feeling. That's the sense that I get. I don't have any polls or anything like that.
So what's role model for Iran right now? Because Turkey was sort of closer to Turkish culture, was sort of closer to Iran in that sense. So what's
I've seen so many
role?
Okay, so I've seen people, some people look at Europe and their human rights, okay, and a lot of people say that's unrealistic. At the end of the day, Iran is in the Middle East, so that is too far ahead for you guys to want something like that. So in response, they look at the personal liberties that people have in Dubai, and yeah, they look at the UAE and Kuwait maybe, and even sometimes they look at how girls can just walk around without a hijab in Lebanon. They're like, why is it, if this is Islamic, how come it's only like the Islamic Republic of Iran and ISIS and Taliban are the only three groups that are mandating the hijab? Like every other Islamic country is not mandating this. Why is this the only place that does this? Like, I mean, even in Palestine, it's not mandated. Right? Hijab is not mandated. But a lot of them are now looking at Saudi Arabia even. And they're like, look, this is supposed to be the heart of the Islamic world. And they're having concerts and they're serving alcohol and they have personal liberties and stuff like that. I don't agree with them as looking at Saudi Arabia, because the liberties that they have is mostly.
But Saudi Arabia is also a good model. It's giving liberties gradually.
Yeah, but it's also taking away liberties. So so Saudi Arabia is giving liberties when it comes to driving cars. It's kind of like a lipstick on a pig when it comes to concerts, drinking alcohol, wearing the clothing that you want and stuff. But when it comes to dissent and free speech, those liberties are actually less than before, not more than before.
Yes, killing dissidents left, right, and center.
Yes,
there was
yeah, and I think that's more important. That's the more important freedom that I want to, like, when in my show, in my Persian show, I want to introduce people that is actually the most important liberty that you like. Don't, if you're picking and choosing liberties, if they're taking away your power to speak against the government and giving you some other freedoms, that's not a trade-off that you want. Okay, because those other liberties that you're getting, they're on the government's time. Like, they can, without your power of dissent, any liberty that you have is just a gift that could be taken away from you. With the liberty of free speech and expression and dissent, the other liberties that come are the ones that you took by force. It wasn't given to you voluntarily. You took it, and it's harder to take it away from you because you took it by force from the government. So the freedom of expression and of speech is more important than the freedom of wearing what you want, or drinking alcohol, or partying.
Do you think that eventually Saudi Arabia would go there with dissent? Like, it could become like UAE eventually, slowly by slowly.
I think
it could
right
become
now,
like UK.
It can, but not willingly. Like, this regime is not thinking. This regime wants a tighter control over its people when it comes to speech. If that ever happens, it's because they have failed. It's because maybe a drop in oil prices or something like that.
But they are starting to build the institutions around the systems. When you bring in institutions, gradually the power of monarchy will slow down. That's what happened in Britain, actually.
Yeah, but I'm saying is, if that I'm not saying that's not going to happen. I'm saying if it happens, it's not because they chose it. That's not what they want. They want tighter control on the people.
Yeah, but when they build a proper, efficient institution, it's going to happen. The institutions will have a lot of power.
They're not building proper institutions. The institutions that they're building are supposed to be arms of the government. Like, Iran also built very powerful institutions, but the institution they built institutions that their job was to keep people in their place. They were arms of the republic, and their mandate was to enforce the rules and the laws.
But if you go a democratic way, I think China shouldn't go a democratic way directly. There should be a gradual progression.
Yeah, I know there's but Saudi Arabia is not doing a gradual. I'm not saying it needs to be a radical shift. Okay, but Saudi Arabia is not doing a gradual progress in the right way. It's going the opposite way. People keep saying, like, oh, Armin, what do you expect from Saudi Arabia? Progress takes time. I know progress takes time. I don't want everything to be free overnight. I know these things take time. But Saudi Arabia is going in the wrong direction.
I think isn't it becoming more like UAE with outside investments coming in on?
It's becoming less like that. There's less tolerance for speech against the regime. than before.
Yeah, but because
I think a lot of people are in love with the aesthetics. Too in love with the aesthetics.
So true. So true.
You know, they don't see the foundations of what makes a true democracy, true liberty, and they get distracted with concerts and women, you know, and partying and stuff. And I think that distracts them from what needs to be fixed from the core. This is why I like the protest in Iran, because they clarified that it's not about the hijab. Like, when they take off their hijab, a lot of people are like, "Oh, these women, they want the freedom to to take off their hijab," and they're like, "No, I'm taking off the hijab because this is the symbol of the regime." They chant, "Hijab faqat bahune ast, asl nizam nishun ast," which means the hijab is an excuse. Our target is the foundations of the regime. That's their chant.
Okay, so but there's something called anarchy, which a lot of nations would like, even the population would like to become, if you give too much freedom, it could lead to a lot of anarchy. So it makes sense to have certain amount of control. So Saudi Arabia is like, we will give you freedom.
Oxymoron. That is such a bizarre line to use at this point. Okay, when you have nobody is advocating for no law and order, it's so bizarre to say that at the face of absolute tyranny, to tell people that there's some law or an order that is required. Who is asking for no law and order?
I'm not talking about Iran. I'm talking about Saudi.
Anybody, like in Saudi, when you have tyrants like in Saudi Arabia or in Iran, to go and use the line that obviously some law and order is required means that you're completely have lost what this is all about. Who is asking for zero law and order? When you talk about law and order, when we're dealing with tyrants, like, yes, we don't need this level of control. We need less level. Everybody's asking for a lesser level of control compared to what tyrants are enforcing upon people. They're not asking for no law and order. In fact, they're asking for. In fact, they are asking for law and order, for the international law and order. They're asking for the enforcement of the law and order that is internationally is recognized against human rights violations. So this is not an anti-law and order advocacy that these people are demanding.
This argument could be used against McCarthyism that was practiced in USA.
Say that again.
Do you know McCarthyism? So the McCarthy during communist movement that was set. Yeah, so they used to use same argument that they were advocating for better law and order, better institutions. So United States crushed it.
God damn it. Okay, everybody. Again, here's the thing. Everybody is asking for law. Your analogy makes absolutely no sense. Okay, obviously everybody is asking for certain laws and order. That's my point. Okay, you're saying, oh, without law and order, we would have anarchy. Well, nobody's asking for that. Nobody's asking for that. The Iranian regime is asking for certain laws and order. The Iranian people who are protesting against the regime, they're asking for a different kind of law and order. The Iranian regime, for example, wants a Sharia-based law and order. The Iranian people want a secular democratic-based law and order. In Saudi Arabia, there is law and order. The law is wrong in Saudi Arabia. The fact that if you speak against the regime, you get killed for it, that's the wrong law. People are not saying to remove all law. They're saying replace the laws.
Yeah, but say the regime in Saudi Arabia, it's responsible for whatever good is happening and what's bad happening in Saudi Arabia. So I think the Saudi Arabia is incredibly rich country, and
I already made my points about this. The regime in Saudi Arabia is fighting against dissent more than it has ever been before, and that is wrong, and I stand against that.
Yeah, because it's being made vulnerable.
It's horrible. It's like this is the wrong way. And as a human rights advocate, I stand against Saudi Arabia's regime. And I also recognize that every freedom that it's getting is doing it out of desperation. It's doing it out of desperation because it's running out of cash and it needs tourism money. So it doesn't require any congratulation for what it's doing. It's being forced into a corner.
I think it's the markets they are playing into Saudi Arabia that are doing this.
Because they have to replace this because they know that they will not be able to maintain the current the economic that they have right now. They know that the oil money is not going to be there forever. So the market is forcing them to give into certain freedoms. They only want to give the freedoms that attracts investment and tourist money, not the freedom that the Saudi people deserve to build their own future, to take control over their own destiny. All they want is more money flowing in, and the money that they would be using to enforce their own law and to maintain their own power over their own people, not the money that would be flowing freely in the hands of the people that will empower them against the regime. That's what they're doing.
Indians have a lot more freedom, let's say, for example, than Saudis do?
Yeah.
Do you think India is in better state than Saudi? Generally, average Indian is better state than an average Saudi person.
Freedom-wise, yes, but economically, if you want to look at Saudi Arabia, what the oil gushing out of the ground, that is not a blessing that you could congratulate the regime for.
I mean, Venezuela turned into hell. So
money is okay. You're Oxymoron. I can't talk to you anymore. You're jumping from one country to another. Now Venezuela, like you don't have any. When you're talking, you don't have any organized way to make your points. Now, forget Venezuela, okay? The regime of Saudi Arabia has literally money flowing out of the ground, okay? And many Saudis are living better lives there. But again, a lot of people are living miserable lives in Saudi Arabia, even with all that oil coming out of the ground, okay? Especially people who are immigrants there. Immigrants there are treated like goddamn slaves, like slaves. There is no excuse for any poor person in Saudi Arabia with all that money coming out of the ground. The fact you're like, oh, some people on average in Saudi Arabia have better lives than India. With all that money coming out of the ground, nobody should feel any poverty. Like, look at Norway. They have oil. Nobody has any poverty in Norway. Saudi Arabia, the fact that they even have a single poor person in Saudi Arabia is a shame. The amount of wealth gap between the rich and poor is disgusting in Saudi Arabia. They could have had a enriched life for everybody there, but they don't. They still have a lot of poor people. How could you possibly still have poor people with all that money? Because so many people have collected that money for themselves, because they didn't let it just freely flow through the economy. And you're like, oh, so many people have. How could they not? Is that because of the blessings of the regime? Have they had good policies? They have managed to waste so much of their money on things that didn't have any results. The reason why they're wealthy is because of so much wealth that is coming out of the ground. It's not because of their management. Their management has been so extremely poor. Look at how much. Look at with all that wealth, they couldn't even defeat the Yemenis. Their management sucks. They don't even know how to organize. Like they people that were like fighting with them with slippers. They had billions of dollars worth of weaponry, $300 billion worth of weaponry from the most advanced country in the world. They bought it, and they were fighting with people that had Kalashnikovs with slippers, and they couldn't defeat them because they suck at management. They can't manage anything.
Okay, so my point is, whatever bad or good.
Hold on, Ibn Qayyim had his mic open. Mic.
I do agree with you with regards to Yemen. I mean, they were useless, Saudi Arabia. I mean, the Yemenis, the Houthis were so overmatched in terms of firepower. The fact that they still were able to contest that war was incredible. Now, my brother, he actually taught in Saudi Arabia. He was actually a teacher. He went there to teach. And he said, a lot of people say, like, for example, they say oil is a curse to an extent, right? Oil is a curse. And we can see that. We can see that in Venezuela. We can see that propping up the Iranian regime. And we do see that in the Gulf countries as well. But Saudi Arabia, one of the things it has completely eliminated is illiteracy. So, for example, prior to the oil boom, I think this was in the 40s or 50s, less than 20% of the population could read and write. Today, that's 97.5% of the population can read and write in Saudi Arabia. It's only people who are in their 80s or 90s. Some of them are unable to read and write.
But that's the world. That's the world.
No.
Everywhere.
But in Iran, for example, it's got a 15% illiteracy rate, right? Which is 1 in 6 people, even with the
Iran?
15% illiteracy rate in Iran. So even with the amount of oil that's coming out there, the regime has failed to eliminate illiteracy, and they had a head start on Saudi Arabia.
It's 85% in Iran. 85%.
No, 15% illiteracy.
Okay. Yeah.
No, not 15% literacy. That would be lower than Afghanistan.
Okay, well, I was like, what are you talking about? Okay, hold on. Let me see. Saudi. I was like, what the hell are you talking about?
Saudi Arabia, the illiteracy rate is about 3% now. So one of the things they have done with that money is eliminate. I mean, they've invested a bit in education. I mean, it was probably not the right kind of education up until about, say, 5 to 10 years ago. But the level of education they're getting now, it's similar to what you would get in Western Europe. It's not that far off, in terms of the quality. And
they hire a lot of American and foreign.
For the international schools they do. And a lot of people in Saudi Arabia speak it with an English accent. Have you seen, for example, the YouTuber, that other ex-Muslim one was? I can't remember his name. He's a popular YouTuber. I can't remember his name. By the way, Armin, do you know who do you think is the largest ex-Muslim YouTuber on YouTube? Like, who comes from a Muslim background who is now an atheist on YouTube?
English speaking or non-English speaking?
English speaking.
Oh, I think, isn't it Apostate Prophet?
No, it's a guy called Hamza. Type in Hamza on YouTube, and it'll come up with him.
Hamza what?
Just Hamza, Hamza. It'll come up. It'll be the first one that comes up.
Oh, Hamza. Okay.
Hamza. No, just Hamza. Can you see that guy? Oh. There's a guy there.
Yeah. Does he?
He does red pill videos.
Okay, but he doesn't do about Islam, no?
He does, but he has spoken about Islam on some podcasts, and this guy he's openly an ex-Muslim. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Look how many subscribers. Look how many subscribers he has, and that's growing. That's growing by about 20,000 a week, 25,000 a week. He's huge.
He talks about red pill stuff.
Yes.
Workout stuff.
Yeah, workout stuff, but it's self-improvement, red pill, that kind of content, And he was on a podcast with the three Muslims. I don't know if you've come across that podcast.
No.
And basically, they were trying to get him to come back to Islam, essentially. And he was essentially saying he was fairly close, and he respected Islam and this and that, but he couldn't get through that barrier. And I think it could be worth someone from the ex-Muslim community bringing him on and having a conversation with him, because that's a lot of subscribers. If the Muslims get him, they get potentially 900,000. Look how many views his videos get. Sometimes 200,000-300,000 views. So it could be worth either yourself or even Harris, even though I dislike him, or Apostate Prophet should have a conversation with the guy. And honestly,
it's like the ex-Muslim transfer market. Like, if the ex-Muslims get him, maybe the Muslims could get him and trade him in. Okay. Anyway, guys, look, I've got to go, but thanks for the catch up.
Me too, actually.
And I'll. Oh, sorry. You wrapping up?
Yeah, me too. I'm gonna go.
By the way, it's been a pleasure speaking to you. I know I haven't spoken to you for a couple of weeks, but I just got a bit excited. I was very excited today to speak to you about what's happening in Iran and the protests, etc. It's just it's brilliant to see, man. I hope you can go back one day and just visit your country and see it. With a free Iran, hopefully, my man.
Yeah, me too. I hope so. India too, guys. Like, how come I can't go? The only two countries I can't go to is Iran, which I understand, but India, come on, guys.
You can't go to Saudi. You can't go to Saudi, Armin, either.
I don't think he'd be able to go to Pakistan either. I think he'd
I don't think you go to Somalia either, Armin. I don't think Somalia would let you.
Fine. You're right. Okay. How come the only non-Islamic country, North Korea I can't go to. The only two non-Islamic countries I can't go to is
Do you think
North
PRC
Korea.
would let you in? Do you think People's Republic, after what you said about them regarding the Uyghur issue?
What are they going to do to me? What is China going to do to me?
They might not let you in. They might not issue the visa, sir.
Visa? I have a Canadian passport. I can just walk right in. Do I need a visa
no,
for
you
China?
can't.
No.
I think you need a visa.
No, you can't. You can do it in India or China.
How pathetic. Wait, India, I need a visa.
Yeah, visa on
For a
arrival.
Canadian passport, you need a
It's
visa.
very difficult. It's very difficult to get a visa for India, man. It's like one of the hardest visas to get. It's really difficult.
I don't want
We
to
don't
go
have. Also, India and Canada aren't doing really well with their relations aren't really good.
Okay, I will come to India if a lawyer volunteers his time or her time to clear my legal case in India, and then I will come to India. Here's an exchange I make. Okay,
Yeah, you will get if you get to have visa, you will get security too.
Really? Okay.
Yeah,
A lawyer come and clear my name legally in India, and I will come to India.
But it's highly unlikely that you will get in India.
I know.
Because you can't fight a case. Because it's not that they will reject you on some other ground.
Oxymoron, would you like Armin to come to India?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind him in India.
Oh, that's brilliant.
I would like to come here. I would like to come, Armin to come. Sorry, it came out wrong. So
and then
I
you'll
would
have a group of people waiting for him outside the airport.
Arrive in India.
RSS guy.
Would I be lynched, Oxymoron? Would I be? Is this a lynching trap? No.
Highly unlikely.
Highly unlikely. Okay.
But I cannot take guarantee.
You can't guarantee. Okay.
Highly unlikely.
I'll risk it.
No guarantees.
No guarantee.
Sounds promising. All right, guys, I've got to go, so I'm going to jump back.
Right.
Take care.
It's been brilliant, Armin. It's been brilliant, man. Honestly.
All right. No, thank you, guys. Guys, make sure you keep posting. Thank you, guys. Guys, please share the stories, videos about what's happening in Iran. I know the international attention is dying a little bit, so you can be part of making sure it dies a little bit slower. Okay, so or else, and then the more the hashtags are trending, the more mainstream media will cover this. Okay, and the more mainstream media cover this, the less likely it is for the regime to go extra aggressive on the people. So you might literally be saving lives by sharing these stories. Okay. All right, guys. I'm going to end the stream here. Thank you for being here. Make sure you like. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit the bell notification. Make sure you leave a comment. And also, if you're watching this on Harris Sultan's channel, please become his patron. And also, if you're watching this on Secular Jihadists YouTube channel, if you can, become a patron on Secular Jihadists, or do both. You could do both as well. Okay. This has been your host, Armin Navabi, here with Amin Kayam and Oxymoron and Friendly Muslim, signing out. Love you all. Mwah.